films of our youth, do they still hold that special place in our hearts? Welcome to the Hey You Guys podcast. We hope to answer this question and many more as we delve into the films that we grew up loving, the films of the 80s with a sprinkle of other decades as well. We are your hosts. I'm Rob Westgate, as always, joined by Liam Pritchard.
Hello, how's it going?
How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, that was such an eloquent intro. I mean, just to be clear, if I'm doing the intro next week, it's going to be shit compared to that. Like, I'm just going to be, this is Liam and Rob, we're doing a podcast, how's it going? You know, so enjoy this while it lasts. Like, that professionalism of this podcast ends with that little moment at the start. Everything after this is going to be an absolute shambles. But, you know, at least up at the top of the game, we sound pretty good.
Well, look, there's two reasons. The first reason, obviously, is whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason is I wrote it down for us to just explain what's going on in the first podcast.
And I feel like I've already fucked it up. I'm sure you had more to say, didn't you?
No, it's fine. This is what we want, isn't it? So happy days. Each week, Liam and myself will be watching and chatting about a particular film and delving deeper into what these films meant to us and can their legacy still stand today. But it'll probably just be me and Liam chatting about the films and forgetting where we were going with it.
I reckon.
Yeah, for a podcast entitled Hey You Guys, it's only fitting that this week's film is the 1985 classic from Richard Donner, The Goonies.
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Like, you know, if you're going to name your podcast Hey You Guys, the first one kind of has to be The Goonies. Although it is a fitting choice.
If you didn't, people are going to look down on you. Let's be fair.
Well, I think people will be confused. Feel like, the 1980s podcast, Hey You Guys, we're going to start with The Terminator. I mean, which would be a completely reasonable choice under normal circumstances if you're doing an 80s movie podcast, but no one called Hey You Guys. But I tell you what, straight away, I've got like a first question. You've said that right at the top, Richard Donner's The Goonies.
Yeah.
Like, when I grew up, I didn't know it was a Richard Donner film. No. I thought it was a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah, no, all the time. I honestly thought it was a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah. And I checked with my wife yesterday. I was like, just out of interest, who do you think directed The Goonies? She's like, wasn't it Steven Spielberg? I was like, no, Richard Donner. It's kind of, the only thing I can compare it to is, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Everyone thinks Tim Burton directed that, but it was Henry Selick.
Yeah, Tim Burton was the producer on it.
Yeah. It's just because it looks like a Tim Burton film. It's got Tim Burton's name. You can see why people might get confused in fairness. But it's like Tim Burton's, because it's not even Tim Burton Presents. It's just Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah. So, why wouldn't you think he fucking directs it? And it's the same with this. It's kind of like, and maybe it's, what was the other one? The Gremlins. You know, anything which had Spielberg's name above it, that's what they sold it on.
But it's funny you should say that. Chris Columbus, who wrote The Gremlins, wrote this film as well. And you can clearly see, although when I told my wife Chris Columbus wrote this film, she went, what, the guy that discovered America?
Of course.
So,
Chris Columbus, he wrote this when he was about 482 years old. He's done a fair bit. He's achieved quite a lot. So,
that's the audience that I'm living with at the moment, is the person that discovered America also wrote Gremlins and The Goonies. So.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better about Bethan thinking that Spielberg directed The Goonies. But like you said, it kind of makes sense because Gremlins and The Goonies, they both got that kind of old-fashioned, ambling 80s vibe, which I think a lot of films kind of strive for nowadays, but not many get. That kind of, it's slightly scary, but it's still a kid's movie. You know, it's a kid's film, but it kind of works as a family movie as well. And I think it's the reason that a lot of these still hold up so well.
Well, this film is, what's this film? This film is a 15, sorry. And I know that we're going...
Is it a 15?
It's, this film is a PG, but it feels like a 15 because of... I mean, the reason why I said 19 just then, because I know we're going to go into facts a little bit later on, but like the word shit or any other usage of the word shit is used 19 times throughout this film.
Is it really?
Yeah.
See, we're already getting to the fact section. I feel, this is you're going to embarrass me with all the fucking facts. No. You don't even wait for the fact sections to start dropping facts. Is there really 19 shits?
There's 19 utterings of the word, like shit, bullshit, like any other kind of...
I can't even think of one. I watched it yesterday, and I can't even remember, like, maybe I'm just blind or deaf to swear words now, but I can't remember there being a single shit in the whole film. 19, yeah. I mean, the thing is, obviously, films get ratings, PG-15, whatever kind of thing, but the most interesting thing I found was I watched this on Sky, and it actually comes up with a warning at the start of the film. It's got, which is very popular nowadays, saying this film has outdated attitudes, language, and cultural depictions which may cause offense today. Yeah. And at first I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, well, they do lock their mentally retarded son up in the, in a dungeon for most of the film,
and
which is pretty out of date.
They go very on the Asian stereotype with Data as well.
See, you think so? I was like, what? Because I was like, all right, with Sloth. Sloth. I mean, I know his name's Sloth, but it sounds like everyone's calling him something different. I'm sure I heard Sloth a few times.
Yeah, and Slothy, yeah, Slothy.
Yeah, Slothy. But yeah. I was like, all right, okay, that can't be a cultural depiction, because even though it's a bit fucked up, where they're the Fratellis, they're the bad guys kind of thing. Then I was like, oh, maybe it's because of Chunk, because I mean they really go to town on him being overweight. I mean he brings a lot of it on himself because he's eating for the whole film. Yeah. But they give him a hard time about his weight pretty much all the film.
Although coming from a fat guy, he's not that big.
He's not that big. No. But they kind of try and palm him off as a real fat guy though, because I mean he's like right down to the final scene when his parents show up and they bring him a fucking pizza. Like, he's been in trouble. We better make sure we bring him his favorite pizza to the beach.
His first introduction, though, was quite interesting. Did you, when they first introduce him, and obviously you get the second, because the first introduction is when he slams his face up against the glass as the Fratellis go by. But when they make him do the truffle shuffle.
Truffle shuffle, yeah.
But when they let him in, the name on the mailbox, I believe, is R. Goldberg. As in the Rube Goldberg machine, which I thought was quite funny.
That's cool.
They do a Rube Goldberg machine to let him in with the bowling ball and everything. So
yeah.
One thing I noticed as well, moving on just a little bit slightly, when Brandon steals the bike, I've never noticed this before. Like he steals that little girl's bike and he rides off.
Yeah.
Data's sister. So Data
is Data's sister?
Yeah, because Data is their neighbor. Because I didn't even put this together, but obviously he has to be to actually be able to slide from one house into the screen door of the other.
Of course, yeah. I never noticed that before either. No. That's all. I mean, there's some cool bikes in this as well. I mean, I love that whole, like, it's aged so well, that 80s aesthetic where you've just got like a bunch of kids riding around on BMXs. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how well it's aged for kids nowadays, like if they can relate to it in the same way that we did, because I mean, when I was younger, that's literally what we did. We all went out on bikes and we pushed the limits of how far we could go, because we were all told, oh, you can only go so far. You know, your parents keep giving you a bit more of a limit. And, you know, sure, we had like video games. I mean, but we had a NES, you know, and a Commodore 64 before that. So there's only so much time you could spend on that. So most of the time it was that old fashioned 80s thing. It was like, we would just get on our bikes and just go out all fucking day. And, you know, you just go out. It sounds a bit lame now, but it's true. You just got like looking for something adventurous to do. Yeah. And that's why I think this film kind of works so well, is because it was just on the cusp of being realistic. Like, even though it's absurd, you could imagine, like, at the upper ends of your imagination, be like, oh, imagine if we did find a fucking treasure map.
Yeah.
But then to find that treasure map, you would have to have what is undoubtedly the coolest fucking, I don't know what you want to call it, a loft or an attic of all fucking time. It's outrageous.
Also, why though was that the first time anyone's ever gone into that attic? Like, they're acting like it's the first time they've gone into there. And
like if you had that attic, you wouldn't be like day one to your friends, like, dude, you got to see this. It's got like the best shit ever up here.
When you go back to saying about going out as kids and stuff, you just always bring back that feeling of we did as well. Obviously, we went out on our bikes, but you told your mum or your dad through the letterbox, I'm going on, I'll be back, and like open the letterbox, shout through the door, close it. You're not even waiting for an answer, and you're gone. And you come back when the streetlights turn on.
Yeah. And the thing is, and again, I don't want this podcast to be about how old I am, although I do feel somewhat old nowadays. But that difference, which again, kids, I assume, just don't have now, is that whole, once you shouted through the letterbox, I'm off, I'm going out with my friends on my bike, that was you were gone, because there were no mobile phones. It was like, you were just like, I'll come back at dark. And that was it. It was like, you know, there was no like, oh, let's phone them, let's see where they are, let's check their fucking GPS trackers or whatever. It's like you left and that was it. You were just fucking gone.
When dinner was ready, my mum would stand on the doorstep and just yell our names, and you could hear it in the wind. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, dinner's ready, gotta go. And
I'm gonna have to go, and that's it. It's bizarre. But that's why, again, I think it ages so well. It's like it's not just, obviously it's something you relate to, but it's like nailing the characters. Yeah. It's the same way that, you know, like whatever you say about it, Friends got it, and something I guess you could relate it to, even though it's a bit darker, something like Stand By Me. was that your friends looked at it and went, "Oh, which one are you? Which Goonie are you?
Yeah, yeah.
Which one of the kids from Standby near you? Which friend are you? You know, are you Chandler or Joey, or are you Mikey or Chunk?" And there's no two ways about it. Like when I was growing up, like one of my friends was a bit tubby, one of my other friends was a bit Asian, so you know they all kind of fit into their boxes. Yeah. But that leaves me as Mikey, and I'm like, Mikey's a fucking dork, man. There's no two ways about it. He's a fucking dork, but he's such a loser.
Yeah, like the whole thing, like. I didn't pick up on as well. Like I watched this as a kid. I've watched it like a spattering of times as we go through the years, but never really like put much attention into it as like, because we're going to talk about it now, I put more attention into it.
Yeah.
But I never picked up on the fact that Mikey doesn't have asthma. Mikey may have asthma.
Yeah, and at the end, he just throws away his asthma pump. Like he's like, who needs it? I'm like, well, you get that. You need it if you've got asthma.
You get that throwaway line from either Brandon or his mum. I can't remember now, saying if he's got asthma, he shouldn't be outside.
Yeah. Like nobody's quite sure. Like, is he just a hypochondriac? Is or does he actually have asthma? I think they're implying he's just a hypochondriac. Like he's just a 12-year-old hypochondriac who doesn't actually have asthma. I wouldn't be surprised if that asthma pump is fucking empty and it's just his parents have given it to him as a placebo. It's like, oh yeah, here's your asthma pump. He doesn't got fucking asthma. He doesn't have an asthma attack. He throws it away at the end. Yeah, I've got friends who have got asthma. If they throw away the asthma pump, they probably die the next day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just another way that, let's be honest, Mikey's full of shit, but I don't know. I can't relate to him.
Going back to the beginning of the film, the introduction of the Goonies and as the Fratellis are going through. The first thing, I can't believe that car beat all the other off-road cars in the race. But I'll
it's quite an elaborate escape, the whole thing.
Yeah,
like the fact that it's a kid. It's one of the things about the Fratellis. It's like they have to use kind of Three Stooges slapstick, and that the music which runs through the whole film.
Yeah,
it's like dun 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 dun. Like they have to use that to offset the fact that they're pretty fucked up. The Fratellis. Like you remove the slapstick and the funny music, and it's like the first thing you see in that film, and this is a kid's film, is a guy who's apparently hung himself in prison. Like fuck, that's dark.
And that's one thing I wanted to mention before you go on. The prison. Yeah. How small are those bloody county jail cells?
Oh, they're tiny.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like 4 people.
Gangster.
If you got 2 people our size, for people that obviously don't know us, Liam's 6'8", I'm 6'4".
Whoa, 6'7", and I'm just under 6'7". I don't need the extra inches, mate.
Liam's a fucking giant.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm like 6 foot wide and 6'4". But if you had us 2 and then another 2 people in these jail cells,
it's gonna be rough on those 2 other people.
Oh my god,
it's gonna be rough.
Honestly, your legs would actually go through the bars at the end of the cots.
Yeah, we're the kind of if you had one of those nightmare scenarios, like if you're in an economy on a plane and some poor motherfucker's got the middle seat and either side of him, me and you rock up, and he's like, motherfucker, how's it going, buddy? And I know you, and of course I end up talking over him to talk to you for like the 12-hour flight to San Francisco. Oh my fucking
Can you imagine that poor bastard? Because we've already sat down and he's just walking towards us, and in his face, as you say, going, mother.
People, you can't hide it on a plane. It's like if you're sitting on a plane and the seat next to you is empty, and you're like, oh man, this is fucking awesome. There's no one sitting next to me. And you see that one last person get on the plane and they're walking towards you, and they must see the look on your face like, motherfucker, I thought I was going to get away with this. But nobody wants to see us on a plane or in a jail cell. Because let's be honest, if we decided to take advantage of someone in a jail cell, because I hear that's something that happens, I mean, you can scare the shit out of someone just eyeballing. You've been fucked by a man. You want to be? I'm not into that, but it might be fun just to scare the shit out of someone. I'm not going to be the bitch in prison. I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to be like, listen, if it means I've got to rape first, then I've got to rape first. Oh, Jesus Christ. I said rape like 10 minutes into my first fucking podcast.
We've gone there. Okay.
Oh, well, let's be honest. I mean, there's going to be some choice language in this, just in case that wasn't abundantly clear.
Yeah. I've already warned a couple of people who said they want to listen that they're going to need headphones if they're going to listen around kids. So.
Oh yeah. You don't want this around the kids.
No,
Jesus, I did just say rape 4 times and a 5th time then. So yeah, okay. That's not my system now. I'm going to stop.
No. But it's not going to get any. It's not going to get any better. So I do.
No.
Actually, I don't apologize for that. It's just not going to get better.
No.
But we got the introduction of the guys as we move on, and I don't understand. Like, where do they all kind of Liv, now, I understand that Mouth is working in a job with his dad. Maybe he's in his own house, I don't know, in some sort of a flat or apartment. Then you get Data, who seems to be practicing his gadgets in a crack den. Or a crack Like,
what's going on? What's going on in the Goondocks in the story? Like, I've got a few questions. I mean, two things. Firstly, even though it looks a bit rough, this started my lifelong love of the Pacific Northwest. Like, it's the reason that when I went to San Francisco a few years ago, instead of going south towards Las Vegas like everyone else did, I went north because I was like, I've got to go up towards Seattle and Washington and all that jazz. And it's partly because of this film. Like, as much as I have no interest in the Twilight films, I still like the look of the first Twilight film because it sells that whole Pacific Northwest thing kind of thing. It just looks like, maybe it's just because I like all the rain because I'm Welsh. It must be something to do with that. But the other thing is, like, and this kind of leads into the larger plot of the film, is in, if you remove the Goonies thing and the chasing for the treasure, like, what the fuck is the plot of this film? Like, Troy's dad, it's like, how can he buy all their houses like it's a fucking, Indian plantation? I just don't understand how he's buying everyone's land. Like, surely some people can be like, no, like no one's got the money. And I don't know how you can just be like, to say like 20 families, like, oh, sorry guys, I've bought up all the debt on your houses. You've all got to move out. Like,
but as you travel around, right? As you travel around and you see their houses and you see where Mikey, Brandon, now as we've just learned, Data live as well on this random hill. Country club compared to this hill, they need to expand.
Well, they're obviously I think they're just building a new golf course. But like I said, even if you take that aside, I'm like, I don't know how everyone on that hill, say they all live on this hill, how have they all got themselves in this position where they all have to pay money up front? Because I assume everyone's got a mortgage. It's like, why the fuck does everyone have to pay Troy's dad? He doesn't own the town. I don't know.
Maybe he does.
I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but I have no fucking idea.
Well, that's it.
I guess they're just like, oh, listen, Troy's dad's a cunt. He's going to throw everyone out. Well, how? Oh, don't worry about that. Don't even worry about it. Like, he's just going to show up on the beach at the end. It'll work. It'll be fine.
As we watched it as kids, we didn't have these questions.
Oh, you didn't ask. Yeah. Well, that is the thing.
This is you've got these questions. Like, I've got loads of questions that we can delve into. So that's no problem whatsoever. But as we're back in the house of, and all the Goonies show up at the house, and my biggest question is questioning Brandon's dress sense, but obviously it was the 80s. Tiny shorts over jogging bottoms. I
think it's all aged amazingly well. I think all their fashion is aged amazingly well. I think Chunk is dressed like a 50-year-old car salesman, and it just works.
Chunk is dressed as Magnum PI.
He is dressed a
bit, but he's just done it up.
And one thing I noticed at the end, they pulled a bit of a, like Lando Calrissian is just randomly dressed as Han at the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's like his dad shows up, and I'm pretty sure they're dressed exactly the same. Yeah. Like, he's dressed the same as his dad, which is the most fucking depressing thing I think I've ever heard. It's like, who the hell dresses the same as their dad? But I was looking around, I was like, I think like with the bikes, I mean, even Mikey, I'm not averse to a bit of double denim. I've partaken in a Canadian tuxedo in my time.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of them have got fucking dope Nike trainers. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
I know Brand, like you say, Brand does wear small shorts, but I'm like, I don't know. It feels like that kind of fashion's come back around a little bit.
Yeah, and even yo-yos and hula hoops again soon. But
yeah, I don't know, man. I think they've actually got away with it. I think a lot of it actually looks pretty cool stuff.
In the house, then, Mouth is just basically who I would love to be if I spoke another language and just to fuck with somebody.
Because dude, Rosalita, like,
when he's telling this poor woman, that's where all the drugs go, and if you fuck up, you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Like, it was funny back then. It still holds up today because as I reach my 38th year, I'm starting to think, you know what, it's funny because it's something I would have done then, and it's probably something I would still do now.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that makes that scene is Rosalita. I was like, man, Rosalita knocks out the park. What's her name? I wrote it down. Lupo Ontiveros. I can't say I know much about her other than a name, which I learned yesterday. But she is awesome in that scene. Even at the end, with the whole, like, where they totally kind of stretch it out, where the dad's taking like 7 hours to sign a piece of paper. She's like, no. I was like, yeah, she's fucking killing it. But that's the scene where I was like, even though obviously a lot of them go on to big things, it's the scene where it kind of reminds you why people thought Corey Feldman was a star, or why he was like, because let's be clear, there's no stars in this film. Like nearly everyone in this film is like an unknown. Like Josh Brolin hadn't done anything before this. Who else is there? I mean, obviously there was Data K. Hoi Kwan. Apologies if I fucked up the pronunciation. He did Temple of Doom the year before.
Yeah.
But I mean, Josh Brolin, Sean Austin hadn't done much. Who's the girl who played Kerry Green? She hadn't really done anything.
No, she hasn't done anything since I was looking at. But as we're talking about,
why didn't she do anything since? Like, I had such a big crush on her when I was younger.
Yeah, she was
I had
awesome.
a massive crush on Andy when I was younger.
As we're talking about what people have been in, I'm going to list the name of films for you, right? Mm-hmm. And the list of the films is pretty much most of these films. We're going to realize that if this podcast continues, if we haven't been actually driven off the air after the whole, we're probably going to cover a lot of these films. So we got Romance in the Stone,
classic.
The Goonies, obviously, is what we're talking about now. Lethal Weapon,
classic.
The Monster Squad, Die Hard, Scrooged,
awesome.
Tales from the Crypt, Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, Lethal Weapon 2, Back to the Future 2, Cuffs, Ricochet. Death
Not sure about Ricochet, but yeah. So what are all these films?
Yeah. So all those films I just said, most of them haven't impacted our childhood. Like I said, the films of our youth.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know the link?
It's not Richard Donner, is it?
Mikey and Brand's mum, Mary Ellen Trainor.
Is it really?
That woman touched
just shows up in all those films.
That woman touched all of the 80s. She was the newscaster. She was the newscaster in Die Hard.
Yeah.
And she was the same newscaster in this Ricochet film, which is a Denzel Washington film. And all I can remember...
I know Ricochet, but I'm not doing a podcast on Ricochet. You can go fuck yourself. There's no way I'm doing a podcast on Ricochet. No. Even if you pick it, I'm just going to fucking veto it in the moment. I'll do it live on air. I don't give a fuck. Ricochet.
I don't want to do it. All I can remember from Ricochet is John Lithgow in the library book armor with a spear fighting another Aryan Brotherhood member. That's
Jesus Christ. Well, it was just the one that jumped out. You're naming all those films like, oh, these are all fucking Ricochet. Fuck Ricochet. Yeah. The fair play. I had no idea she was in all those movies.
Mate, she stretched.
Other than Ricochet, which we've oddly, kind of zoned in on. Every single one of those, literally, you are right, could be on this podcast in the coming weeks.
Lethal Weapon, obviously, she's the therapist.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's the therapist. I don't know who she was in Cuffs, but like Monster Squad, she was like the mother again. Scrooge, she was one of the women who was at the...
She was working in the office.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Tales
from the Crypt, she was just in that, like Ghostbusters. This woman...
That's insane. Speaking of like great, people having great runs, like we were talking about, like most of the people in the film, this film, let's be honest, was sold partially on Richard Donner making it, but largely on the fact that it had Spielberg's name on it. The only one was obviously Corey Feldman, who was, in fairness, it was that scene in particular, I thought, where you're like, man, this kid's got something, which maybe the other kids didn't have perhaps.
Yeah.
But he had, because it's easy now to look back on Corey Feldman and be like, man, that guy was a fucking mess. And he did become a mess. But his run from 84 to 90 is unfucking real. Check this out. 84, he was in Gremlins. 85, Goonies. 86, Stand By Me. 87, Lost Boys. 88, License to Drive, which I fucking stand by. 89, The Burbs. And 1990, and I didn't fucking know this, he voiced Donatello in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Donatello,
I had no fucking idea.
He was in 1 and 2. I don't think he came back for 3. He might have come back.
No. He was in 1 and 3. He didn't come back for 2.
He didn't do 2, did he? Okay.
Yeah. He got too big for his boots and then realized his boots weren't that big.
Because the only thing I remember about Turtles, and I know we're stretching away from the Goonies, but the guy who was in number 2, the main character, who was also in Surf Ninjas.
All the classics.
Why is his name escaping me right now? Oh my God, Lou.
Why wouldn't his name escape you? His name escapes everyone. Let's be honest.
I love his
name. If you say George Clooney at the end of this sentence, I'm going to eat my ass.
Ernie Reyes Jr. Ernie Reyes.
Sorry.
He was
it's an easy name to forget.
Too, but he was the body of Donatello.
Okay.
So going back to Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
He was the actual guy in the puppet suit in the Turtles.
Oh, okay, actually in the suit, yeah.
I know it only stretches to the next decade. I thought it was an 80s film. 1990s.
What's that?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1.
Yeah, was it? It was on the cusp, 89, 90, wasn't it, kind of thing? But that was a massive deal. And that was the highest grossing independent movie of all time when it was released.
Also,
the fact that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was fucking independent. That's insane.
I know I'm gonna blow your mind right now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one, and I'm getting close to the microphone for this, had a young Sam Rockwell in it.
Did he really?
It did, yeah. He was the guy.
I haven't seen that film for ages.
He was the guy showing people around and offering them cigarettes. But Sam Rockwell.
God. How do I know that? I love Sam Rockwell. I fucking love Sam Rockwell. And I had no idea. See, now, well, maybe we'll do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Maybe that's the excuse we need. But let's be honest, just be clear, it's not going to be a week 2 fucking movie. If this podcast ended up going into maybe like the 30s and the 40s, that's when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles maybe sneaks in. And we end up just talking about the fucking cartoon instead. But yeah, we'll get to, we'll deal with that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
But what else did I have? I mean, the thing is, the whole point with this podcast is that rather than just talk shit about it the whole podcast, we do have a few sections. Like we do want to go through random facts, which is going to cover. What were the other ones? We wanted to talk about the legacy of the movie, about the music, which we do want to make a kind of standard for all of these podcasts going forward. But if any movie deserves to have the music video discuss, it's fucking this one, which we will get to. And then video games, which again, this film has a very interesting video game story. But I mean, before we get to that, I mean, there's still a few things.
I've got too many notes. Get to facts, before we even get to video games, I got loads to go, like things that made me laugh, things that I still love to this day with this film. Like, but the biggest thing, for some reason, I don't know why, probably because obviously in my, 85, so I probably watched it when I was 6 or 7. In my younger head, let's say, I could have sworn there were more traps.
That is one of the things I was like, all right, there's not, you need the fratellis because there isn't actually all that much threat if you remove the fratellis. One, there's not many booby traps. 2, a lot of them are very slow. Like the one where the boulders drop, they've got all day. Like you can see it coming. It takes ages to set up. And then when it does, you're like, oh yeah, the boulders are dropping. So, not only do they escape, they fuck around at the end. Then they jump back in and grab their map and go again. All that makes me think is, right, one, I don't think he was great at booby traps. I'm just going to put that straight up. And 2, I think Chester Copperpot was absolutely shit. Like he was rubbish. He died at the first fucking hurdle.
Too much into this because when Mikey pulled that cord, they all dropped. But for some reason, only one dropped on Copperpot.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. Like I said, I think it was largely because he was terrible. I don't even think the booby trap went off. I just think he just dislodged it and it fell on him.
Of course he was terrible. This guy took 12 candlesticks and 1 stick of dynamite, apparently.
Well, no, aren't they all fucking dynamite?
No, because they've lit them as they've gone on. I noticed this and I had to go back.
Oh, I was wondering, I was like, are these kids idiots? Like, how do you not mix up dynamite?
They have lit them as they have gone on because the scene
where there's just one dynamite snuck in amongst a bunch of candles.
As soon as they get to One-Eye Willie's treasure trove, they've got the candles in their hands and they light Willie's candles. They light Willie's sticks.
Yeah. We're above this. We're not going to make jokes about One-Eye Willie at all. It's fine.
No, not at all. Not happening. But so as soon as they do that, I had to go back a couple of times and think about this. And no, they grabbed like 12 candlesticks and 1 stick of dynamite. So
and one had dynamite written on it, in fairness. So he did mark it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like keeping your dynamite with what are candles that look exactly the same. Again, it speaks to Cobblepot. Like he's just not very good. He's not. Although, in fairness to him, like it didn't seem that hard to find. The fact that they say everyone and their kids went out to look for this treasure and no one found it, I was like, they found it pretty quickly. Although I will admit, everything really does fall into place for them. Like literally, things fall on them. Like information just drops out of the sky exactly when they need it. So they never actually have to do much.
Somebody would have had to have been down there already, because who's laying all those pipes, those plumbing pipes?
Yeah, that's a good point. They're just not know. And that is the thing. I haven't quite got an idea once they're underground just how big it is, you know. And they don't actually seem to go on that. They don't seem. There's no sense that they've actually traveled that far when they're underground. No. And there's some weird scenes down there. Like as good as Corey Feldman is as Mouth. I really found that one scene off-putting. You know, the scene at the waterfall?
Where it became deep all of a sudden.
He has this one really emotional scene. And I'm like, wait, am I supposed to know what's going on here? He's on about the one coin. This one's my wish, my dream. I'm taking it back.
Yeah, but what was his wish? Back. What was his dream? It seemed to be out of place for the rest of the thing.
Yeah, it just feels like, you know, kind of like the whole octopus thing. It just feels like something which is mentioned or referred to, but just I know, was cut from the film or something. Because
that was going to come up in facts, right?
Yeah, I've already fucked that up. We'll get to that properly in facts, of course. But that feels like the one fact that everyone knows.
Yeah, well, there's quite.
Yeah, if that was our only fact, the fucking octopus thing, I'm pretty sure that's covered in the special edition of the DVD. We'd be terrible. You've already provided much better facts than that, so don't even worry about it. You've got the facts. Even if we didn't have a fact section covered, you've ostensibly done a fact section without a fact section. So don't even worry about the octopus thing. But yeah, I totally agree. I other than the organ/piano of doom, I was like, I don't think the fucking booby traps are all that good.
No.
The only the major questions I've got about the booby traps is that the one that nearly kills Data, which in fairness is pretty dangerous, and he saves himself with his. I mean, I had to look it up. It's his pincers
of peril.
Peril. I thought he said pitches of peril for years. I was like, what the fuck are pitches of peril? But anyway, pincers of peril. So he falls a long way, yeah?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, guys, I found another room. How the fuck did they all get down there?
So yeah, so that's my thing. How did they all get down there? But also, was that the route? So that was always the route. One guy is going to have to fall on all these spikes.
Yeah.
Anyone else? That's the route you've got to take. And
maybe there's another route.
The best booby trap of them all wasn't Willie's, was Data with his slick shoes.
Oh yeah, 100%. All these. I mean, there's a lot of questions about Data's. I mean, his boxing glove, which appears and disappears at will. But I mean, there's question marks there. But
I question if they can't afford to stop Troy's dad from taking over their house, but they've got all the money to make basically Data's suit.
Yeah, and not just that. Let's be honest. If we take Mikey's family, for instance. They can't afford, they've got no money, all this stuff, but they've got enough money for help. Rosalita doesn't come for free. Yeah, my family could never afford help, so to speak. But a lot of that doesn't make sense. But if we go back to the booby traps for just a second, I mean, beyond the fact that they're shit, let's be honest, this is a pirate who made a super fun happy slide. There's no two ways about it. Yeah. That's what he's done.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they make this big thing about, oh, don't touch Willie's treasure. So when they touch Willie's treasure, all that actually, I don't know. I mean, it's impressive, but I don't know what it's trying to achieve. Somehow the cave falls down because they've touched his treasure, and the ship just sails off. So basically, if you touched Willie's treasure, all that happens is the ship gets freed up and it sails off with you on it. It's like with all the treasure. Like, what's bad about that? I don't get it.
But you're telling me this guy killed his crew. And then, because they said something about 6 years, he was locked there for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Did all this in 6 years, and then just sat down and went, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to sit here and rot.
Die.
Yeah.
I'm just going to die in the seat. Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know how he did the cave thing. I don't quite know what the point was. I would have enjoyed the slide. I don't quite know where he felt the need to make a fun slide, but he did. So yeah, the whole One-Eyed Willie thing was pretty strange. The treasure wasn't particularly well hidden when they got to the ship. Although I was impressed by Mikey's ability to punch through wood. Like, what the fuck? Like the bride in Kill Bill. He just fucking one punch straight through. I think we haven't seen anything from Mikey which suggests he's able to punch through solid wood.
The 1-inch punch. I mean, this is the guy who has been huffing on an asthma pump.
Who doesn't have asthma. Let's be honest. This only confirms our theory that this motherfucker doesn't have asthma. He's going around punching through wood like a goddamn ninja.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't have asthma. He's an athlete. He's a goddamn specimen is what he is, Mikey. But, I mean, okay, so we've talked about most of the characters. Before we get onto anything else, we have to talk about Sloth. I mean, what do we think about the whole Sloth thing? Because they make it clear he's there, like, was he born disabled, or was it because she dropped him on his head twice?
A couple of times. Do you know what? They never really pinpointed, do we? I mean, if we're talking about Sloth, we've got to give a shout out to John Matsuik, who is the guy that played him, and he was
he's a linebacker for the Raiders, and he wears the top.
Yeah,
he's literally wearing a Raider shirt.
Who unfortunately died in 1989.
Yeah,
which 4 years after this,
which sucks. But there's so many cool little like he's wearing a Raiders shirt, and I remember when I was growing up, I was like that bit when he tears off his t-shirt and he's wearing the super shirt, and I was like, why has he got the Superman t-shirt? And of course, it's a Richard Donner film.
Yeah,
and Richard Donner made Superman. And I was like, why the fuck didn't I put that together when I was younger? Like, I knew Richard Donner made Superman, but for someone, probably because I thought fucking Spielberg
made it. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if you look at Sloth now, they wouldn't do that character the same way they did it back then. There's no way.
No, the whole character's weird. Although the weirdest thing about it, and I got to feel for them, is like at the end of the film, I know we're jumping around a bit, but let's be honest, we're going on the assumption everyone listening to this has fucking seen the Goonies. We're not explaining the film yet. It's like Chunk, it's like he's just run into his parents. They, oh yeah, you're safe. Here's a pizza. Oh, look, we're dressed the same, whatever. And then within 2 minutes, he's like, Sloth, you're going to live with us? Surely his parents have got something to say about that. They're like, whoa, that giant man with severe disability is going to come and live with us. Let's be honest, I'm not sure about this at all. But supposedly it's canon that Sloth does indeed go and live with Chunk and his parents. But I don't know, man. I mean, imagine I was your kid. It's like, oh, yeah, Sloth's going to live with us. I'm like, is he fucking bollocks? That guy, I don't think you realise the care this man will need.
What's the syndrome when you fall in love with your kidnapper?
Oh, shit. Oh, God, it's on the tip of my tongue. There was a Blink-182 song called it. Oh, what the fuck is it?
Yeah, hang on.
Something syndrome.
Yeah. I want to say, it's not Munchausen syndrome. I know that.
No, it's not Munchausen syndrome. Oh, this is embarrassing. And the fact that I've kind of associated it with a Blink-182 song. Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm
Jesus
syndrome.
Christ.
Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome. That's embarrassing.
It's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, I think. He's locked up with this guy. Who,
everyone seems to be pretty cozy with him at the end. Like all the kids are like, oh, cool, this Sloth. Like he just showed up. No, not one of them kind of has that look like, what the fuck is that man? Because let's be honest, he doesn't look mentally disabled. He looks like a monster. Like he totally looks like a monster.
When your ears,
and he's got super strength and all sorts.
When your ears can wiggle like that,
it's not quite right. He's got one eye lower than the other. He's got wiggly ears. He's got like a cone head thing going on, and he's clearly got superhuman strength.
Yeah.
And he shows up. Let's be honest, these kids, they've never seen him before, and he shows up like a pirate. You know, like fucking Errol Flynn going down the side of the, you know, it's bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. But again, it's one of those things, it just fucking worked when you were younger. You didn't ask any questions about the whole Sloth situation.
No, again,
like,
when he ripped it,
they have a monster in the fucking...
When he ripped his shirt off. But it was wholesome as well in regards to, this guy was mistreated by his family. He's found a family now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a nice twist, but...
You look at it through an adult's eyes.
Yeah. There would be so many more questions now, though. Yeah. They're like, why does he look like a monster?
In all fairness, it's grooming. You know, an adult with a kid, it's grooming. He's groomed this kid. Now he's going to live with this kid.
You think Sloth is grooming Chunk?
That's how it's.
I'm not sure, man. I mean, this is worse than my rape chat from earlier. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Especially as he's living with the parents and stuff as well. It's all very short. But anyway, the Sloth situation's a bit odd, but it's one of those things like when you were young, you just didn't question.
You can't go on about Sloth though without mentioning his brothers, Jake and Francis as well.
Oh, they're fucking
played
awesome.
by.
They're so good.
Robert Davi or Davy. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
I'll lay you off.
But then
I'll lay you off because I don't know.
Joe Pantalone as well, who Cypher in the Matrix. Obviously, he was I can never remember his name.
Remember, we were going to fix your teeth. We spent all the money on Francis's toupee. I don't wear a hairpiece.
As you say about that, I was going to ask you, but you brought it up now. Some of the best lines in the film, and for me, there's two lines that stick out. The first one being, I think it was either when the bats. I think it might be when the bats were flying, and Francis shouted, "Protect your hair!" And he took his toupee off and stuck it in his coat, and he's
just protected from the bats.
He was wicked.
Oh,
and the same
so
thing with the bats. When the bats first started attacking the Goonies, Mouth is shouting "sit" at the bats.
Yeah.
Sit.
The weird scenes.
I don't know why that made me laugh as much as it did.
Oh, like I said, though, it's that whole thing. Like you have the music and their slapstick and stuff, but people forget it's like Chunk gets it rough. Chunk gets it rough in those guys because at one point they're gonna. Let's be honest, it's mutilation. They're gonna stick his hand in a blender.
Yeah.
They throw him in the trunk of a car with a dead body. Like that's pretty fucked up to do as a kid.
And they stole his ice cream spoon.
And they saw it, which is pretty dark as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's some weird stuff, but I don't think there's anything weirder in this film, and maybe because I'm just misreading the age distance. But the weird kisses between the older kids and the younger ones, like was it Andy accidentally makes out with
Mikey,
and I'm not sure what the age difference is, but she's clearly into it. And then Steph makes out, like Steph and Mouse have this whole thing going through the whole thing. And the weirdest thing is that Steph, and maybe a bit unfairly, but Steph looks about 37.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's got this whole weird thing like going on with Mouse. And I'm just like, really, what's the age difference between, because when you're younger, that age difference is so much more pronounced. It's like, you wouldn't hang around with the kids 1 year younger than you when you're in high school. It's just seen as weird. So I'm like, are they like 17 and they're 13?
I think, yeah. So
it's pretty fucking weird, dude.
I think the three were like Brand, Andy, and Steph was 17, and the others.
Yeah. That's what I read it. But they were all like 13 or something.
The introduction. Why was Steph bobbing for crabs?
I have no idea. No fucking idea.
Like why was that?
It was like they didn't have, and she's the one character who's, let's be honest, is a bit forgettable. And even if it's like they knew it. Like everyone had like their little moments, and it's a great intro, which kind of gives you a quick insight into what kind of character this is. And yeah, sure, it's broad strokes, but it works. But her just bobbing for crabs, you're like, wait, so what does that mean? And all the way through the film, I'm not really sure what kind of character she is. Is she a stick in the mud? Is she a third wheel? I don't really fucking know. She just kind of exists to have this weird, slightly messed up relationship with Mouse, which I can't get on board with. But she's the one character in the film where I'm like, do you need her? Like, could she just go? Maybe I'm being harsh, but I like everyone. I'm just
you're on about Andy and her, and I think Andy did the better acting in that film. But
she's the quintessential damsel in distress. She spends a lot of that film, screaming and being like, "Oh, hold my hand" and stuff. But
Steph has been busy, man. Even up to this day and age, Steph is busy.
Oh yeah, no, she's been in stuff, and I'm not criticizing the actress. I'm just saying the character is just like everyone in that movie stands out. Everyone has that little even Mikey's dad. By maybe it's just because he looks like Stephen King, and it takes him 20 hours to sign a piece of paper, and then when he tears up the thing, did you notice the bit when he throws the paper up in the air
and then more paper comes behind?
Yeah. Someone throws it behind it. I was like, man, that is just not subtle at all. But I was like, she's the one character. I was just like, I can, if Steph wasn't in the film, I can live with it. It'd be fine. But I mean, the film, like, I think it totally holds up. I think it totally. And this will kind of lead into our legacy section, because we can just talk about this film fucking forever, and we will.
Before you do lead into that, then I do want to say, it does feel like even to this day and age, the fickleness of teenagers. Like they were in the car with Troy. She was wearing Troy's cardigan.
Yeah, and then, what a slut.
But she is still into Brand. Like, as soon as she sees she's wearing Troy's cardigan, but she's matching with Brand as soon as she can.
Yeah, and who wouldn't? I mean, Josh Brolin is a hunk. There's no two ways about it.
Although that was, again, in fact, that was his first screen appearance, was actually 17.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have called him a hunk there. Well, I'm speaking very much of him and his, he's a hunk now. I mean, how old is he now? Like
even before his Thanos ass chin.
Josh Brolin is a handsome fucking man. There's no two ways about it. And it's a shame because you look at that film and you're just like, he's super handsome. Like Andy's like, she's so pretty when she like. And again, just to be clear, this is coming from like, she was older than me when I watched this film. She was like this weird, like, this older girl, but she was like super pretty. And you just thought coming out of that film, surely she'd be in a whole bunch of films. But she was in a few with, who was it with? She was in like Lucas and something else. But she was in a few kind of relatively big films and then just dropped off the map. I think she directed one movie, but yeah, she just one of those actresses where just either it didn't happen or she just didn't fancy it or something. But it's just, going back, you're like, why the fuck didn't that happen for her? But whatever.
Yeah, right. She went on to do Lucas, and then there's not
a bunch of films like. Really? Yeah, there wasn't much else, but yeah, she was cool. But I mean, obviously, out of everyone, the winner out of if you obviously take away Spielberg and stuff, the winner is Josh Brolin. He's the one who obviously came out and, had the proper full-on career. I mean, and people forget, Josh Brolin, it wasn't like he had this like constant run since 85. He had a lean spell for like a long time and then kind of came back in the, 2010s and stuff.
Well, that's
when he started, like No Country for Old Men and shit like that.
Well, so what's it called, isn't it? It's the Jerry action phase. Like a lot of...
It's a weird one because he's not quite old enough to be quite there. But I just think he just suddenly just run into a lot of roles, like very good roles. And he always had those kind of movie star looks, and he's always been a good actor. And sometimes,
he's nearly 60, mind.
Is he?
I say nearly 60, he's like 52, but...
Jesus Christ, don't say that. Because I'm like, oh, I'm 38, nearly. Wait, am I? Yeah, I am still 38. Jesus, I had a moment then. I'm 39 soon. But it's like, oh, you're 38, you're nearly 49.
There you go.
I'm just, no, I'd prefer to go the other way and be like, oh, I'm 38, but I'm nearly 25, almost. Does that make sense?
I'll be 38 in 4 hours.
Okay, well, yeah, let's just leave how old we are. Well, happy birthday for a few hours, of course. But obviously this film is, what, Jesus Christ, 30-something years old now.
1985, so yeah, we're talking...
36 years old.
Yeah.
So it's a fair old film. And the weird thing is, and obviously the difference between, I guess, then and now is, one of the odd things when I was looking it up was that I saw a lot of people refer to this as a cult movie. I was like, it's not a cult movie. This film made like $120 million back in the day. It was a hit movie. It's not a fucking cult movie. People know about it. It's a famous movie.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that there wasn't a sequel made. And I was like, why wasn't there, maybe they just couldn't get the kids back together or something, but even the templates kind of died a death a bit. The only other film which I can kind of think around the same time, which was similar, was Monster Squad. And maybe because Monster Squad crashed and burned was the reason that this kind of subgenre just kind of went away then. Because you think off the back of Goonies, there's going to be a whole bunch of copycat movies, but it just never happened. No. It was like the Goonies and then that was it.
You say Monster Squad crashed and burned. I say Monster Squad flew high.
Oh, dude, I love Monster Squad, but that film fucking burned at the box office. It was a massive flop.
On a budget of 19 million, Goonies made 124.
Yeah, that's not a cult. That's a massive hit.
That's a massive box office hit.
Yeah. I think it was like the third or fourth biggest film that year. It was one of the biggest films of the year. It was the same year as I assume First Blood Part 2 was maybe the biggest film that year because that was 85 and that was a massive film. Yeah. And Rocky 4 was 85. Oh no, or was it Rocky 3? It was one of those. Anyway, it was a big Sylvester Stallone year, 85. But anyway, it was a big film, but it's just weird that it didn't have that those sequels. So a lot of these films, as we said, if we're going to be talking about Terminator, Aliens, they've all got these really elaborate, really interesting legacies. But with the Goonies, it's just the Goonies. And it's I would say its legacy is untouched because people still love it and there's been nothing to ruin it. You can't say, it's in a better shape or worse shape. There's no films quite like it. No. There were no sequels. So it's you've still got this weird time capsule from 1985. And I would... one of the things we talked about that we said we wanted to discuss on this podcast was, obviously we love it. And it's one thing is going back to it with nostalgia. And just to be clear, going back to it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not convinced I'll enjoy all of these films going back to them, but I really enjoyed this. But the question is would I tell one of my friends to watch it if he had never seen it before? Or, interestingly, would you tell a kid to watch it? If you had a nephew or something like that and he was 10 years old, I would 100% tell them to watch the fucking Goonies.
So that's exactly the way I'm approaching these films as we go on now is, would I want my son to watch these films? Would I set these films aside for when he's old enough, in whoever's eyes, societies or whatever, if he's old enough to start watching these films? Yeah,
you have to be careful with that though, because you're talking about your son. I think you've got to take your son out of it because you're going to want your son to watch all the films you watched. You're going to want to have that connection. Okay. I'm talking about your friend's nephew. Would you tell a random kid? You'd be like, oh, no, even in 2021, do you think just a random 10-year-old would like the Goonies?
Okay, we have a mutual friend who has a daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would definitely want her to watch this film.
Yeah, me too. 100%.
6-year-old little girl.
Okay, so it ticks the first box, because it is, let's be honest, it's aimed at kids. Yeah. So, a kid at, that age now, but 36 years old, I'll be like, yeah, totally watch it.
Yeah.
If you had a friend, 30, late 30s, same age as us, mid 30s, it's fine. Would you tell them to watch the Goonies? Would you have the confidence to say, no, I think you'd enjoy this?
Yeah, absolutely, I would 100%.
See, I thought that. But this was probably 10 years ago. We had a Goonies night because it was before I moved up to Edinburgh. So I was living with friends and stuff. And out of a group of 8 of us, 4 of us had seen the Goonies and all loved it. And the other 4 had never seen it. So we're like, oh, dude, you gotta have a fucking Goonies night. And we all watched it together. And of course, the 4 of us who'd seen it before were like, oh, we love it. Got all the nostalgia attached. But the other guys, they weren't fussed on it. But I'm like, I think they might just be wrong. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm like, I'm willing to admit some films, I'm like, I love it, but I'm wrapped up in nostalgia and it's all about the memories. This film, I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, there's some cheesy stuff in it, but I'm like, it's a good film. It's a well-made film.
Yeah, absolutely. It's done very well. It's written well. It's acted well. There's something for everyone. And if you like an adventure film, if you like a film, lightheartedness, just something that from start to finish, there's there's nothing like in regards to it's going to make anyone uncomfortable. This film is literally just fun.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things, you don't get it, you get it really bad with video games, but you do get it with movies, that certain films can be ruined by iteration. It's like you don't notice it until you go back to it. And it can happen with action movies. Like some of those action films you love from the 80s, you go back and after seeing these films built upon, and then, you've got John Wick and all these elaborate, amazing action scenes. You suddenly go back to a film from the 80s and be like, man, the action's a bit shit. But like I said, there's not many movies like the Goonies. So it still just sits there and just works on its own. And one of the things I always say about 80s films, the best ones don't feel like it feels like a movie that could have been shot today, but was just set in the 80s.
Yeah,
rather than it being made in the 80s.
It's like a period piece at that point.
It feels you could if you told a kid, you'd be like, oh, it's this movie and it's set in the 80s. You don't tell them it was made in the 80s, it's just set in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I think they'd fucking buy into it because the effects are mostly pretty good because it's all practical, which is such an important thing and it'll be the case for most of the movies we do on this podcast, because the majority of them are going to be from the 80s, is that practical effects, good practical effects, hold up amazingly well because they're that tangible. Whereas a lot of movies from the 90s, you go back and watch them, you're like, oof, some of them are pretty fucking rough. Even modern films can be pretty rough with CG. But yeah, there's a couple of moments where, you have matte paintings and whatever. But for the most part, I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good, I think.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And it just all feels right with this film. There is a film that we're going to cover down the line at some point. Big Trouble in Little China. Great film. Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
no.
That's going to be an interesting conversation. That one, because that is going to be an interesting conversation
on that one. Do you know what you're seeing? Practical effects. You got a flying ball of fat with eyes and everything. And
well, let me just say spoiler alert, because people will forget, because we won't be doing that in the first 10 episodes. Is that my wife had never seen Big Trouble before, and I got her to watch it literally a month ago, and she was like, "Dude, this is a piece of shit." She hated it, and I was watching it, and she's giving this critique of the film, and I'm like, you're right about most of those things. Like, I love that film.
Yeah.
But if someone sat down and told me all the reasons it's a bad film, I'm like, I can get it. Whereas I feel like if someone didn't like the Goonies and they watched it for the first time, I feel like I could argue the case without it being filled with nostalgia. I could just be like, no, I think this is a legitimately good film. Whereas Big Trouble in Little China, when she was making this argument for why it's a piece of shit, I'm like, wow.
The thing about Goonies, and if we cover quite a few of these films as we go on, 9 times out of 10, the kids on an adventure, which seemed to happen quite a lot in the 80s.
Yeah.
They're going to be the films that you relate to more because it's the kids on an adventure. So you put yourself into their shoes.
Yeah.
Whether you highlight a character, whether you're not, and again with the 80s. Monster Squad, Stand By Me, Goonies. There's always going to be the cool guy. There's always going to be the geeky leader. There's always going to be
the fat kid.
The fat kid.
There's going to be the token
mental
foreign
problems.
In
this time, Sloth was the one with mental problems. But always going to be. It's that stereotype they're always going to fit. But I don't know anyone that would say the Goonies is a terrible film.
No. I don't think you could make that argument because it's just not. You can say you don't enjoy it, but I think it's objectively a well-made film.
Yeah.
Like, if you remove attachments to it and stuff. And one of the things, the reason it works, and the same reason that Stand By Me works, and the exact reason why other films of this ilk don't work, is that they nailed the casting. It's like, people forget, it's like with kids in particular, if you fuck up the casting, it ruins the film. I remember, like, the film isn't nearly as good, but I remember I went to see The Day the Earth Stood Still, the one with Keanu Reeves, the remake.
Yeah.
In the cinema, and I came out and I was just like, I can't enjoy that film because of Jaden Smith. He drove me, and I'm not even sure if it's Jaden Smith or if it was the writing or a combination of the two, but there are a few things in cinema more annoying than an annoying kid. God, that was a bit of a sentence. But if all you need is one horrible little shit, and they can completely fucking derail a movie.
It's 100%. An annoying Smith, because I can't stand Will, but that's a different story for a different time.
Oh yeah, that is different. That'd be an interesting story, but. Yeah, I like the fact that they just got the casting right. The kids are all likable. That's a massive. There are a lot of reasons why this movie works, and one of the big things is Richard Donner. And obviously a big part of that is getting the directing right. And I think, and again, maybe this comes under facts, perhaps, or maybe I'm jumping the gun, but the fact that he shot the vast majority of the movie in order, which you rarely get in films like this. And it was so that the kids were on board with it. And I think with the reveal of the pirate ship, because obviously they built a pirate ship, was like the kids had never seen it before. So they had like their real reactions, but supposedly their first reaction, they all swore. So they actually had to cut it out and just you just have to react again.
We're gonna slip into facts here now, because you are absolutely, but it was only one person. From what I am,
one person swearing. Okay.
It was Josh Brolin.
Well, we got to get to the facts, because we're going to run out of time here, so we got to tear through.
So it was Josh Brolin. So so when they saw the pirate ship and they wanted their reaction, first of all, Josh Brolin turned around and just yelled, "Oh shit!" or "Holy shit!" Again, going back to the fact that there was 19 utterances of the word shit. Why was that a problem?
Any moment deserves a shit. It's the reveal of a pirate ship. Yeah, but what I do love is the fact that apparently that ship was 100% built. Awesome.
They built that ship, 100% built it. After filming, they couldn't give it away. So
I heard about that. Yeah. That's insane. Like, imagine that now. Like, do you want the ship from Goonies? Yeah, I want the fucking ship from Goonies. But the thing is, I haven't actually got that. I feel like we've covered most of the interesting facts. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we were going to mention the octopus, but, the fact that Data references an octopus, which doesn't happen in the film, but does happen in the longer cut. Not the longer cut, the deleted scene, sorry, because it just didn't work. But that's
interesting, because it's not really the deleted scenes. Obviously, it was deleted, but it was deleted from theatrical and some DVD. But some TV edits, cable edits, have it.
Jesus Christ, that's weird.
Yeah, so if it's released...
It wasn't good. It didn't need it.
It didn't. But if it's released in cable, cable for Americans, obviously, because it was cable channels then, it has it. And going back to what you said about the Willie made a water slide, that was 100% built by a water slide company. And from what I read...
Not One-Eyed Willie.
What I read, Richard Donner and a bunch of the crew snuck in after dark one night and just spent all night riding the water slide.
Why the fuck wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Well, like I said, I haven't actually got many more facts. The only fact is not so much about the film, so much as about pirates, because the big part of the whole One-Eyed Willie thing is that he does indeed have one eye. But supposedly, with pirates, and again, I'm not sure how true this is, I just read it, was that they often wore eye patches, not because they were missing an eye, was so that in battle, quite often, the fight, so if somebody came onto the ship, the fight would be between, obviously on top of the deck and below decks. And when you go below deck, it was often pitch black. Yeah, so your eyes would take time to adjust to the dark. And of course, that 1 second could cost you your life if you're in the middle of a battle. So the idea was that you're constantly having one eye, which isn't taking in light, so that if you're fighting on top of the deck with one eye in the light, and then suddenly go below deck, you flip up your eye patch, and you've got a ready-made eye for the dark. I'm like, I'm not sure how fucking true that is, but I was like, it sounds kind of good.
I've heard that, not so much of
pirates. It's a commitment I'll never understand, but I'm not a pirate, so what the fuck?
Well, nobody is a pirate anymore. That's the...
Well, there's Somali pirates. Maybe it's not just Somalis. Maybe I'm just taking that from South Park. But I believe pirates,
that's another podcast and another.
Maybe. Okay, fair enough. But before we get onto the music video and the video games, is there anything else you wanted to bring up? I mean, the only thing is, I did notice in the film when Mikey's telling the story, and it sounds so dodgy when he's like, "Oh, my dad used to tell me a story about One-Eyed Willie to make me go to sleep." And the first thing that pops into my head is Mikey's dad is an offender with a record. Like that just sounds dodgy as shit to me. But I mean, I feel like we came so far without mentioning the whole One-Eyed Willie thing, and I've ruined it at the end. So I do apologize.
No. But what I love, like you said, you're going back to the Mikey thing, and that made me question because it wasn't so much that, and I don't mean to correct you on here, but it wasn't so much that he said, my dad used to tell me this story. My dad told me this story once. My dad told me this story once about One-Eyed Willie. He iterated it perfectly.
Yeah.
If his dad told him this story once about One-Eyed Willie, he had every fact nailed.
I thought it was like a bedtime. So the thing is, just because he has this weird connection with One-Eyed Willie throughout like the whole film, which would suggest like he'd grown up with One-Eyed Willie. I had to laugh
when he took his patch off and he went, "That's why they called you One-Eyed Willie." Why did you think they called him One-Eyed Willie?
Yeah, really. Unless he did think it was a penis thing. I don't know. It's very strange. All right, let's just leave One-Eyed Willie at that. So
we're going to move on then. So,
all right. So Richard Donner, he obviously, he had this long list of films that he directed. I mean, he had a pretty good run. I mean, it was Superman, Lethal Weapon, Scrooge, Lady Hawk, which criminally I haven't seen, but I know a lot of people love.
Wow.
I know. You can't see it, the look on his face when I told him I haven't seen Lady Hawk. But more importantly, he directed the Cyndi Lauper music videos, part 1 and fucking part 2 for Goonies Are Good Enough. Now, I will suggest, I assume most people, if they listen to this podcast, will have seen the Goonies. If you have not seen part 1 and part 2 of the Goonies Are Good Enough by Cyndi Lauper, directed by Richard Donner, fucking stop what you're doing right now and go and watch. And don't listen. The song's a belter, just to be clear. The song is a fucking belter.
The song is great.
The videos are beyond.
For the random fact.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just also for the random fact, you're probably about to say it anyway, and I've just interrupted you.
Oh, sorry.
They've got WWE, WWF wrestlers.
Yeah. Loads of them. And there's no reason for it. Why is the Iron Sheik, Roddy Piper, Classy Freddie Bassie, Lou Albano, and Andre the Giant in this music video? There's no fucking reason. No. And Roddy Piper has got it turned up to fucking 11. He is mental in that music video.
I'm sorry. You said Roddy Piper. I've got to say it. I've come here to kick ass and chew gum. And I'm all out of gum.
I mean, maybe this led to his movie career afterwards, because like he is going for it. He's like, before the actual song kicks in, there's a whole section where Cyndi Lauper is for some reason running a gas station, and a whole bunch of wrestlers show up, and Roddy Piper goes fucking berserk. And I don't know why. And she finds a hole in the wall, and the Goonies are there wearing Goonies t-shirts. It's fucking weird. And you think, well, that's mental. And they're like, oh, well, no. We're doing a second part of this music video, which is the same fucking song, only everyone is now on the pirate ship. It's like, oh, dude, we spent all this money on the pirate ship. We're just gonna have another music video where Roddy Piper, Andre the Giant, and everyone is just fucking around on a pirate ship. It's beyond. So usually, I think the idea is, all right, what should the song be for this movie, or what was it? In this instance, it's got the craziest theme tune of all time. There's no two ways about it.
You cannot change the song for this.
No. It has to be this. And even like the meta shit, the song plays in the movie, but they're watching it on TV.
Yeah, but stretch it back again.
Which is weird as shit.
Backdrop into facts. They were just watching a blank TV because this film, the music video was filmed, I think it was 5 months after the finished filming the video.
Yeah, they've just forced it in. They're just like, Richard Donner. It's like, listen, this is my proudest moment. We're getting it in the fucking film.
If we have our our 7 listeners at this point, if anyone wants, if anyone wants to go on to Wikipedia, I've never seen a music video that has a plot.
No, well, the only one, and again, I was trying to think, like, what the fuck were they trying to achieve here? You've got to think, this was 3 years after Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it's the only thing close to this. So I was actually watching it. I was like, are they trying to do like the 1985 version of Thriller? Like, this is the big event music video of the year, where it's like, because that had a narrative. Like, it wasn't like the music video just started. It was like a short film, and then it went into the music video was part of Thriller. And that's what they do here. Only it's, I mean, it's no Thriller. Let's be fucking clear. As much as I love the song's no Thriller, and just be clear, the music video, it's not in the same fucking league. No. Like this is combined 10 minutes of utter fucking mayhem. Utter mayhem.
Did you notice who the female pirates were in the music video?
No.
Sorry.
I was too busy looking at Lou Albano, obviously.
The Bangles.
Was it really?
It was the Bangles.
Of course it is. Of course. Why not have the fucking Bangles in here? It's just that, let's throw everything into this. Yeah. It was like, who can we get today? Well, the WWF is in town and the Bangles are playing around. Get them all in. Get them all in. So yeah.
That is a film. That's a film in itself.
It is. I'm not sure if it's good. I don't think the music video is good, but it's so mental that it has to be seen to be believed. Yeah. But the song is good. I'll stand by the song. The song is about. I'd happily just listen to the song.
Absolutely.
It is about it.
Great song.
So the last thing we've got on the list is one of the I guess the more unique sections we're going to do is, was there a video game for this? Because obviously a lot of these movies in the 80s all had video games, and if not, well, I guess the idea is, if you made a video game of it today, who would you have make it, and what kind of game would it be?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about the Goonies is that there was a Goonies video game, but it was for the Famicom in Japan, but it was never released over here except for in arcades. No, it was released in arcades in the US. So the Goonies never really saw the light of day in the US or Europe. Nope. But bizarrely, the Goonies 2 did.
On the NES.
It was on the NES, yeah. So for most kids growing up, especially in Europe and the US, there was no Goonies video game, just Goonies 2. And there was no Goonies 2 film. So, like, what the fuck? And obviously, being a NES game, there wasn't much narrative. It was just a side-scrolling adventure game with some weird kind of rudimentary first-person.
They did have a plot point where it was the Fratelli's revenge, if I remember rightly.
The
Fratellis kidnapped. They stole them. They just literally
just stole them. Yeah, that was it.
No, they kidnapped all the Goonies. So you're running around with, if I remember rightly, you're running around with a yo-yo.
Yeah, you're Mikey with a yo-yo.
Yeah, and then you got to rescue.
One thing I'll say, by the standards of the time, it wasn't a terrible game. And if nothing else, it's like the cover art for the game was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's quintessential. It's really cool. But again, so most of us only saw Goonies 2, which was weird. Since then, there's been a few mobile games, but nothing really of note. But in the last few years, there have been a bunch of games which are very much inspired by the Goonies. And the one which I thought caught the spirit of the most, and I thought, with a bit of tweaking, really could be a Goonies game, was, a lot of people will point to Oxenfree, which was good. But the one that got me was a game called Bikes and Nights by Phone Sword. I'm not sure if you've ever played that, but as you'd expect, Bikes and Nights, you spend a lot of time on an island. It's like two friends, and you cycle around, and you get into hijinks and stuff like that. And you think, with a bit of tweaking, that could be a Goonies game in 2021. So, from my perspective, I wouldn't want to see a big budget Goonies game. I don't think it'd work. But I think a kind of, text heavy, gameplay light adventure, which kind of went heavy on theme and setting and place, would probably be what I'd be looking for.
If we were making a Goonies game now, for me, and a lot of people might stop listening at this point, it'd be a Naughty Dog Uncharted-esque game. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, honestly, just hear me honest, right?
Because how many people are they going to kill? You do realize Nathan Drake kills thousands of people. And
you want just
Mikey going around with his famous yo-yo killing fucking
Nathan
soldiers.
Drake is a monster, but
he's a monster.
Yeah. But notice I said esque.
So you're not thinking a disillusioned 30-something-year-old Mikey.
No.
After the Goondocks, they found out the diamonds were fake. He ended up, doing a spell in Afghanistan. He suffers from PTSD, and now he's come out and he's a merc for hire.
So if you're looking at Mikey,
carries around his trusty yo-yo for some reason.
So you kind of picture Mikey now as a 40-year-old Macaulay Culkin. If you see Macaulay Culkin now,
but he's fucking shredded. He's totally shredded. He's fucking awesome. He's a master of weapons.
No, I see it as a game, and every level or every chapter, maybe you're a different Goonie. Doesn't matter. But
what's Chunk's power though?
Yeah, but you don't need to have power. But that's what I'm saying. It's literally just.
Okay.
It's literally just solving the puzzles to get. I'm not even thinking.
Yeah, what's the point in making Naughty Dog make it then? I mean,
because Naughty Dog, the way
they
Naughty
do great.
Dog, for me, Last of Us, Uncharted, the story is always the main priority. That's why I want a Naughty Dog game.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean, but I just think there were other 80s movies where I'd be like, oh yeah, Naughty Dog could do this. Naughty Dog could do like a really interesting Rambo game, for instance, where you kind of, if you did it very much based on like that First Blood era, John Rambo.
But you're looking at Naughty Dog, right? And are you forgetting that Naughty Dog did, was it Jak and Daxter? No.
I know they did that. I just think, I don't think the characters are quite interesting enough or have unique enough traits to kind of turn it into an action game. And that's why I keep it more as a kind of, I think it'd be more of a narrative game. But yeah, I guess it's interesting we have like different opinions on where you'd want it to go. I would very much happily see a lower budget, interesting, like unique art style. And as I said, I mean, obviously you haven't seen it, and I only played it on Game Pass. But if you get a chance, have a look at Bikes and Nights. There's something about it. I even think like you could take the art style and almost take it wholesale. And it, like the place there, I can't remember where it's set, but it has that kind of like Pacific Northwest vibe. Like it's raining a lot and stuff like that. And maybe just because you're riding around on bikes, but it captures that essence of childhood. And I'm not sure if Naughty Dog are the company to capture childhood in that way. I'm just not sure if it's their kind of
just for a bit of retcon.
bag.
Just for a bit of retcon, and just in case people do actually listen to this and start attacking us, Knights and Bikes.
What did I say?
Bikes and Knights.
Oh, did I? I've literally got it written down in front of me. Oh, I wrote it down as Bikes and Knights. Where the fuck did I write it down as Bikes and Knights? It is Knights and Bikes.
I'm anticipating.
I have the game. Jesus Christ.
I'm anticipating like 1 million listeners now just actually.
Oh, dude, I would love nothing more than 1 million listeners all telling me I'm a moron for saying it was fucking Bikes and Knights rather than Knights and Bikes. If that somehow happened, I'd be such a happy man. Believe me, I would love nothing more than extreme critique of my performance here. That's absolute nonsense. I'm sure.
In all fairness, they've either turned off at rape or they've turned off at grooming. So we don't know.
It's one of the two. Yeah. If they've made it this far, I don't think they give a shit about Bikes and Knights. Let's be honest. I'm not sure if there's like a hardcore. It's like Last of Us. We're not talking about Naughty Dog here. Maybe there are a few hardcore Knights and Bikes fans out there. I have no idea. But anyway, I mean, like I said, we've covered the games. We've covered the music, we've covered the facts, we've covered the movie. Again, like so many of these movies, we could talk for fucking hours on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we have to try and make these podcasts a reasonable fucking length so it's tempting to listen to. So, I mean, does that feel like a reasonable place to wrap shit up today?
I think so. I think there's going to be the question that we're going to end on pretty much before we delve into next week's film, which will be sprung on by Liam. So what we're going to do every week, so one of us is going to choose a film every week and we're going to spring it within this podcast.
We can't spring it. We got to spring it now at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. That's what
you're going to be able to watch it.
I'm just explaining that this is what's going to happen when we end it. But I think what we need to do is pretty much the question that we're always going to end before we talk about the next week, the question that we're going to end on is, did you still enjoy this film?
Yeah. We've covered it. Absolutely 100%. It's still great.
And I appreciate that we've said that, like, we recommend it to everyone, but
no. From a purely personal perspective,
did you still enjoy this film? And for me, absolutely 100%. I would watch it again.
Okay.
Again and again.
Last question. If you're rating this film 5 stars, what are you giving it today?
I still think, even though I enjoy it, there's always room for improvement. It's got to be.
I'd say it's a 4-star.
Yeah.
Oh, we're agreeing. 4-star movie, still very good. Not perfect. It does have its problems, but I don't want to get caught up in what doesn't work. Despite it's still a great film. I really enjoyed it. It was a great excuse to watch it again because I hadn't actually seen it in maybe 5-6 years. Yeah,
so longer for me. I think the last time I actually saw it, even though I have it on DVD, the last time I saw this film was probably early 2000s.
Oh Jesus! So that's been a while.
It's been a while.
I say that 5-6 years ago. That might be a lie. I've got nothing to back that up. It might be longer ago, but the fact is, going back and watching it, other than like the minor details, like I remembered all of this film. I remembered all of it. It's just like nothing came as a surprise. I was like, oh, this is as good as I remember. I remembered all the scenes. It was like I'd already kind of preempted the next scene. You go back and watch some scenes, you're like, fuck, man, I forgot about this scene.
Yeah.
But you go back. The only thing I'll say is, it's one of those things that will come up, and I've not had the opportunity to actually see this movie in the cinema. A lot of these films, like obviously most of these films we grew up with, we didn't see in the cinema because we were too young.
Yeah.
We all saw them on TV or VHS or whatever.
But there was always the play, like a lot of the cinemas in the UK do old school movie nights.
Yeah. And that's why I've seen, a lot of these films I've since had the opportunity to go back and watch in the cinema. I haven't had the chance to watch this, and I'd really like to, because one of the things I notice is how different an experience it is on the big screen. Like films like ahead of Prometheus, they had the original 70mm prints of Alien and Aliens up in Edinburgh, and we went to see the original prints. And I'd never seen this cinema, and I've seen Alien and Aliens, especially Aliens, fucking hundreds of times.
A couple of years ago, I saw Aliens in the cinema, and it holds up. That's but it's fantastic in the cinema. So this in the cinema.
But it's more that I can watch it a million times on TV, but there's something about going to see these films in cinema where it suddenly feels different. There's it's just a different way of watching it. It suddenly feels fresh, or I might be more judgmental of it. So I would be interested in the cinema, but as I said, on TV, still great. Oh,
before we wrap up, two things that I forgot to mention that made me, one made me question and one made me laugh louder than I probably shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. The one that made me laugh is the B flat joke at the piano.
Oh, yeah.
For some
reason,
made you
laugh?
Sorry?
That made you laugh?
That made me laugh, like, out loud. Like, I don't know why.
That just reminded me what a fucking dork I think Mikey is. I was like,
Mikey. And the other one, when they have that pee break, and they go to the little girl's room, the little boy's room, and the men's room, and then they all go to the men's room. The two things, I never knew that it was a skull, first of all, until you go back and they go through a skull. But also, the men's room was where they all went back through when they tried to escape the Fratellis. Mm-hmm. How much piss did they have to crawl through?
There must have been a fair bit. So that's an interesting way to end the podcast, on how much piss did the Fratellis run through as they chased after the Goonies through the weird skull toilet thing. So I mean that's a great place to end. Great place to end. I guess it's not the final place to end, because the last place to end is my movie for next week.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this, because you've given me, before we actually started filming this, you've given me a big list of the films that you want to cover on this. Don't expect this podcast to end anytime soon, even if nobody's listening, because we've got about 90 films to go through. So
I know, it's like 90 films to go through.
I was going to say 900, but then I realized that 900 is...
No, 900 is a lot. Yeah. But we've got a lot. The thing is, because of a film which is coming out soon, I was going to say something else, but because I've just got to go with the big hitter straight from the off. So the film next week will be Predator. It has to be Predator for me. No, I'm not going to say anything more. I'm not going to say more. We'll say it for next week. So this week we've both got to watch Predator again, which is not a problem for me at all. And we'll do the same thing next week, only with Predator. Let's be honest, a very different movie to Goonies. There's no two ways about it.
Absolutely, 100%.
A shift in tone for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, Goonies could have done it with a bit more spine ripping, but again, we'll cover that.
Yeah. Maybe not a little more spine ripping in Predator, but yeah. So please, if you've made it this far, well done. But if you can make it next week, and we will get all the stuff up on online. We are in the process of getting. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this, we'll have Facebook, Instagram, all that shit locked down, and we'll get up a few things ahead of the Predator episode. But
I will say that Please follow us on Instagram on Hey You Guys 80s, HEYYOUGUYS 80s, 80s. You can also actually email us on heyyouguys80s@gmail.com, and we'll be on Facebook at Hey You Guys 80s as well.
We're doing all the stuff. I guess you could do Twitter, but I fucking hate Twitter. Maybe we'll do Twitter in the future. We'll see. But for now, that's plenty. We've got an email, we've got Facebook, and we've got an Instagram.
We do appreciate if you want to get any recommendations in, and we feel that they're going to match up with what we want, we will absolutely take recommendations as well.
I love that. If you want to make any recommendations, and we 100% agree with them, we might choose them. But otherwise, you can go fuck yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're two Welsh lads that don't really do well with being told what to do, but feel free to tell us what to do.
Yeah, give it a go, see how that works out. But
thank you very much for
take...
listening, and we will see you next week. As always, I've been Rob Westgate, joined by Liam Pritchard. I had to remember your name.
Almost forgot my name. Even said my name in a strange way. Liam Pritchard.
Pritchard.
Pritchard, yeah. Yeah, Pritchard. It's fine. Just go where it feels right. Go where it feels right.
Thank you very much for listening. And
cheers, guys.
Bye now.
Bye now. Bye-bye. There you go!